Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and in this episode, we sit down with Juan Esteban Varela. If you have never heard of his magic, it is incredible. And in this episode, he even does tricks live. How, you may ask? Well, because Juan is the expert in magic without props. Not only does he have a full DVD project that you can get about magic without props. You're going to hear about a full show that he's working on magic without props, but he also is very well known, and you may have heard about it in previous episode about his Magic in the Dark. That is a full magic show that happens in pitch black with blindfolds on. And he's toured the world with this magic show. And it's incredible because maybe when you hear this, you think, how could you even do a magic show in the dark? And in this episode, he talks about magic in the dark. He talks about magic without props, propless magic. And he talks about his journey and his true love for all of the different areas of magic, how multifaceted it is, how much there is to love. And I think you're going to resonate with it because for me, it really, really stuck with me, and he echoed and articulated some things that I've been thinking and feeling for a very long time. So here it is, a wonderful episode of Discourse in Magic with the incredible Juan Esteban Varela. Juan Esteban Varela, how are you?
Great. So happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Thanks a lot.
I am so happy to have you here. We have so much to talk about. You know, I had a chance to meet and hang out a little bit at Danny's villa up in Malaga, and we had a really lovely time.
Yes, Villa Caps.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought this would be a wonderful conversation because you've done some really amazing things. And even in Toronto, I wasn't able to see the show that you did here in Toronto many years ago, but
nobody did.
Nobody did. No, people did. Oh, I guess that's true. That's true. Nobody saw it. But, you know, the ripple effects of it have been going on for a very long time. So I'd love to chat a little bit about that. But let's start at the very beginning. So how did you get started in magic?
All right. Well, I do not remember myself without magic being part of my life. I mean, I know I liked it a lot since I'm aware of being. And when I was 6, I asked for a magic box, and I lost 6 years in that way, you know, and they gave me the magic box. I learned every single trick. I performed them all the time. Then I went to the Magic Circle of Chile, and it's been always part of my life. Every time I would see a magician on TV when I was a kid, I would go to the TV and get stuck there until the end of the presentation. And I've always loved it. I never thought it was going to be my life, but it's always been a part of my life. Like I said, I was part of the Magic Circle at the age of 6, you know, and the first time I went to TV, I was like 14, and I went to the Chilean TV and a very important program there, and it was interesting, but it was a game. When you're a kid, it's always a game, you know. And then I stopped for a couple of years because I studied law. I went to the university. I finished my law studies, never worked as a lawyer. It's a kind of a hobby that I have. But like the second year of law studies, I got back into magic again. And it's been my job since, you know. And at a certain point, I realized this is all I'm doing, and this is all I want to do. So then I wouldn't say it's a decision that I made. It's just at a certain point, I realized I was a magician, you know. And, you know, with magic, it's not something you do. It's not, I am an engineer. And I am a magician. It's not something that I do. It's not my job. It's who I am.
I certainly resonate with that. I think that, you know, magicians see the world in very different ways. And it's an interesting way to put it that, you know, it's not something you do. It's something that you are. You are a magician or you're not a magician. Talk to me a little bit about what the magic world was like in Chile. Were there a lot of magicians? Was it a big community? Were there magic shops or conventions? What was it like?
Not really. It was a small community, and it's growing. It has been growing the last maybe 7-10 years. It's been growing a lot. But when I started, it was a group of older people that had different jobs. None of them was a professional. And in fact, they had this rule in which professionals didn't have to pay to be a member, just to support professional magic.
Wow,
which is kind
that's interesting.
of the opposite of what you do. Is like, oh, you're a professional, you make money, you pay more even, and no, it was a way of stimulating people to work as magicians. If you were a professional, you didn't have to pay. That changed later on, but when I started, this was what it was. But we had one magician that would bring magicians from other countries to perform at TV shows in Chile. So at a very young age, I had the chance to see good magicians doing lectures and performing because they were invited to perform at the TV show. But this person was the president of the Magic Circle, so he would bring them same magician that went to TV to the reunion, and we would meet that person and talk with him, and that's it. I mean, it's a country in which I'm 54 years old. So when I started, there wasn't any YouTube or Instagram or anything. Look for magic. So if you found a book, it would make your day. It's something that you would treasure and you would read over and over. And it was a different time, but it was fine because there was enough people to continue learning, which I think is the most important thing. And I knew nothing. So I had a lot of room to grow, so to speak. Yeah.
I'm always curious about how the journey looks. It seems like there was obviously a little bit of like law school in there for a little bit and then out. But, I'm very curious about what the journey looks like, when you decide, or you don't decide, but it just happens, that you're going to be a magician and you're going to do magic. All of a sudden, it's not for play and for fun, but now all of a sudden it's like something serious that you have to think about as a business, or even, as like what you're going to do with your day. And I think that, when you think about being a magician, you think that what it means is every day you're shuffling and coming up with tricks and da-da-da. And for many people, maybe they can do that a little bit. For many people, it becomes very business focused. How did you start figuring out like, okay, I guess I'm a magician. So what do you do from there?
That's a great question. And I really think it's a very messy process. I mean, you can always make a narrative afterwards and say, no, everything makes sense now. But when you're there, it's just, I don't know, it's just a law for a little time. It's 12 years because I stopped 3 times, went back, finished my law studies, it was a long time, but I never wanted to be a lawyer. I knew that, when I was in school, I would play music, guitar, go to festivals, but it was also a hobby, something that I love, but I didn't want to do for a living, and I was doing magic all the time on the side. And I think the most important thing for me was when I finished my law studies, I had an offer to work in a restaurant as a magician from Monday to Friday, 2 restaurants. From Monday to Friday. I did that for 2 years. So then it started feeling like I'm making my living out of this. And this is the main thing I do. And the moment I finished my law studies, I thought, I have won the Chilean Championship of Magic. And at the time, I'm talking a long time ago, and the prize was you could go to FISM. This is the year 2000 I'm talking about, okay? Lisbon. And the moment I went there and came back, I realized even that I had won that prize, that I really didn't understand magic at all. And it's trying to answer your question is something I couldn't escape that. I mean, I knew I wasn't good. I knew that this is what I wanted to do all the whole time, and then I knew also, and this I think it was probably the best idea I had as a teenager. I knew where the good stuff was. And that was Spain, and that was Juan Tamariz and all the people there. So I decided to go to Spain, and I left Chile when I had the chance to do more TV shows, and I was getting invited to perform, but I knew that I could do it, but I would finish my career there. I would never grow, and so I went where the people that I thought knew what magic was all about was. And that was Spain. I remember before arriving to Spain, I went to United States. I had a cousin that is an actress, of course, and lives in LA. And she was doing pretty good. And she said, oh, we're family, why don't you stay here and help me as a, I don't know, assistant of, and then you could work at the Magic Castle. But it was the same thing that in Chile, like, I know I can work, but I can't learn. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand what magic really was. And what I did was just cling to Tamaris and all the people here. And I met people like Danny, people that are my brothers and my fathers at the same time, And I truly believe that I was maybe 30 at the time, 29, 30. This is the moment I really became a magician. This is the moment I began to understand. It's like the difference between telling a joke and make humor. It's the difference between making a trick and do magic. And for me, Spain is the place where I really knew that I wanted to do the rest of my life, and I really understood many, many things.
It's incredible. A couple of things you said there I really latching onto. The first is very interesting is that, simultaneously you win the championship in Chile and then you go to FISM, which seems like, you're among the people who know what they're talking about and know what they're doing. And then you're there and you feel the exact opposite. You feel like I have no idea. Why is that? It seems like you would maybe, some of the imposter syndrome would maybe fall away when you're there instead of the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of you could lie to the other people, but it's as long as you don't lie to yourself, and I knew it, because also it's good if you have like people that are great, like Tamaris, or you see them and you know that there's something missing, for you. And this was for me the experience. I mean, it was very strong, and I loved it. I love that. I think I'm going to be the eternal student. I love the possibility to grow and understand. And magic has this thing in which every time you enter one world, you realize there are many more things behind, and it's always, you always need to learn more. You're never closer to knowing everything. You're always further away, and this is great. This is very stimulating, and magic is very generous that way. And I remember your question, and the journey is always messy. I stopped my law studies 3 times. The first time I came to Europe, and I spent 8 months in a monastery. Do you believe that?
Oh my gosh!
I wasn't a monk or anything. I was working there. I was working actually in the kitchen of the monastery, and then I met my girlfriend from Spain. I went to Spain, came back to Chile. Second time, I became a flight attendant, and I did that for 2 years. I flew for American Airlines 2 years.
Wow.
And then I came back to finish my law studies, but I stopped for a third time. And then for the first time, I went to work as a magician in Costa Rica. And I spent 1 year there in Costa Rica working as a magician. But you see, you do many things in life. And if you have a lot of interests, you're gonna travel around them, and you're gonna explore them. But at a certain point, you know what you want to do. When I entered law school, I wanted to be a writer. This was my idea. And many of the authors that I like, they study law. And in Chile, didn't have like a proper school of writers. It was like you could go to the university to learn how to be a teacher of Spanish, but not how to be a writer in the university. And some of the poets that I like and the writers, they study law, and I thought this is helpful. I'm gonna know how to express myself, and then I can use this to write. But with time, all my interest in writing also got absorbed into magic. By magic, it's like a beautiful black hole that everything, if you study psychology, it goes to magic. If you see a beautiful exhibition of art, you think, oh, this person is expressing something, maybe I can express the same with magic. You always use everything into magic if it is like an obsession, like a huge passion. And another important thing about your question is how to become a professional, and for me, I remember one Chilean magician, which is probably the magician that had made more money in Chile working as a magician, much more money than myself, and always corporate gigs and a lot of money. And he did a lecture about how to be a professional magician, what it meant to be a professional magician. And he said things like, answer the emails the same day you receive them. It's like stuff simple like that, or keep a list of the clients you have performed to. And I was looking at this checklist that he had, and I realized I wasn't a professional because I don't do any of those things. I don't send emails at the end of the year, like, thank you for choosing me. And I'm very bad at that. And I think I don't know what's the word in English. I'm an aficionado. I'm an amateur in a way, because I love magic the same way you love it when you don't work as a magician. It just so happens that I've made my living out of this. But if I were in a world in which the only way you could do magic is by paying, I would try to find another mean to make money just to be able to perform, which is something not so good when you have to negotiate the price, because I would pay to perform.
Yeah, don't tell the clients that, but no, I understand.
This is not what a professional does, That's another difference. I remember in that lecture, this person said that at the end of the year, he would send a pool asking like, thank you for choosing me during this year. And for the next year, would you like to see more humor, bigger illusions, more mentalism, and many options? And the people would fill out the pool, and he would receive those results, and maybe 80% of people would say like more humor. So next year he would come with a new show of The Name of the Magician with more humor, I don't do those pools, but I imagine if I do one and the answer is more humor, I would say, okay, you are going to have a terror seance this year, because this is what I want to do. I'm really bad about when it comes to thinking a good marketing strategy. This is actually the show for the blind. I never thought of it as a commercial possibility. Now I realize that it's something I have been living out of this show the last 10 years, 12 years, maybe more. But for me, it was a bizarre experiment. And I was sure that I would have to convince all my friends to enter, a dark room. Come, you're going to enjoy this. And I would only perform this for like a couple of friends, and that would be it. But I wanted to do it. It was a compulsion, I don't know, a hunger that I had. And I've always approached magic this way. So if I have to give advice about how to be a professional magician, probably the wrong person to ask.
So many of the things you said that are very interesting. The first one that I really love and certainly resonates with me is that magic acts as a black hole for all of your other passions, and I have found when I talk with people about it, I've found, like, anything I've ever been interested in, math and writing and interviewing and rhythm and all of that, I can find in magic, and I find in magic, and just like you said, every other passion, and sometimes I'm almost embarrassed about it, that like, I have a guitar that I don't play because all of my music love and interest gets absorbed into rhythm and magic and into like other things like that in magic. And it's very funny the way you said that, because I think it's true. I think magic is a vacuum. It pulls in any other area that you have. It really pulls it in, into your life until that's everything, that's what you are.
Yeah. It's great. And it also has a specific thing in which you are thinking like methods and creating experiences, and you can absorb other things, but also has a thing of its own, which is a beautiful thing, which is how to construct the impossible in the minds of the spectators. I mean, this is something else, you don't find this anywhere else.
And it's funny to see that idea fill you with joy now after having done this your whole life. It's still like, it's still so amazing and so.
It is amazing. I mean, for me, this is going to sound silly, I know, but for me, it's weird that not every person decides to be a magician. I mean, it's a possibility. Why are you not a magician? You can be one. It's like because it's so great, and it filled me with joy, absolutely. And because good thing about magic is you're never going to do what you say you're going to do, never, because otherwise it wouldn't be magic if you're doing exactly what you say you're going to do. So that means you can do anything, because you are going to get as close as you can to perform the impossible. But it's not going to be that. So relax and explore and try to be the closest you can to the impossible. It's not going to be perfect, and that imperfection is a fuel. You can always try to get a little bit closer and be a little bit better, and there are no limits of the things you can do and imagine. And this is a problem for me, Jonah, because I have to choose. And this is a problem because I really love the blank page, so to speak. I really love to create new things. This is we haven't talked about this. I hope we have time to do it. But this is why I created, in a way, the show in the dark, And I wanted to explore the limits of magic, what is magic? Just to understand what is magic, this simple question can take many forms, and this is the thing. You can answer that question or explore that question from many different angles. It's like, what's the difference between magic and technology? What's the difference between magic and psychology? What about, do we need the eyes to experience magic? Is it, what's the difference, I don't know, between mentalism and magic? And is it possible to create other emotions like terror or I don't know, the same emotion that poetry creates with magic? And you can explore in many different ways the boundaries of magic. And every single, research, it could be a different show. And you have to choose because time is limited and you have to choose.
Yeah, I love that. I love the question of what is magic, and your excitement about continually digging into magic. And, it really is something that absorbs your whole entire world forever. Forever. That's why everyone has these similar stories of like, I saw it when I was 5. My uncle did it when I was 6 or whatever. And then that was it. It changed everything completely. And I'm always very curious about, many people see magic when they're 6, and some of them go, cool, a trick. And then they go and eat a hot dog or whatever. And then some people, that's it forever. That's it forever. So it's very interesting to me why it happens to some people and it doesn't happen to other people.
Yeah, you have to have that as Kanye would call it, obsessive love for magic. You have to have that. And you can see when someone has it and when someone doesn't. You can really, it doesn't matter how long that person has been in magic or how old it is, but you can really spot like, oh, you're doomed. You're part of the club now. Sorry. So maybe you would work doing something else. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but you will always be connected to magic, and you will always go to the congress. You can, or convention. You will always think of a practice or perform for a friend. It's always going to be part of your life. You can see that when someone has it. And some people just like runs away from it like years, but it's always there.
It comes back. I'm curious about what your time in Madrid studying was like, because I think that, here in North America, there's a very imaginative idea of what magic in Spain is like and magic in Madrid is like. It's like, oh my God, like everyone's sitting around doing card tricks and, like all of this, like, crazy thinking about what is actually going on. And I've been very fortunate to have interviewed a lot of the magicians in, that era and better understanding what life was like for them. And for many of them, it was getting the magazine every quarter, that Tamariz was publishing. For many of them, it had to do with the the theaters or meeting together to study till 4 o'clock in the morning and What was it like for you? Especially, you take off to go to Madrid, and I'm sure the idea that you had in your head of what it was going to be like is not the same as what it actually was like. When you move somewhere to study magic, what does that mean? What did you do with your days, with your time? What did you do with it? What did it look like?
Well, it overseeded my every expectation that I had, because I knew that the right people was here. I would say there, but I'm in Spain right now. And I came here, and all I did was get close to these people. And I would summon my experience in one word: community. This is what it was. And it was a very generous, open, and motivated community. I don't know. Every single day would have something to do. Like I don't know. Monday, okay, you got the meeting of the Society of Spanish Magicians, and then you would go to the dinner with Juan Tamariz, and then you would go to drink somewhere else with Juan, and sometimes you would end at Juan's house doing magic until 8 a.m. Okay, Tuesday, maybe I will have a meeting with, I don't know, the people. I was so blessed that to have the best magicians being like my friends at the time, and they were not famous. They were just really exploring magic. And maybe Tuesday I would meet with Miguel Angel Gea, Woody Aragon, Danny, and then maybe we would do something like, I remember sometimes Tuesday was like we would go to someone's house. We would put objects on the table. You have to improvise magic with the object and leave another object for the next person to improvise, and you would explore stuff like that, And then maybe Wednesday we would go to see the show of a friend, and then, but every single day we had something, And
it seems like nobody had a job. It seems like nobody had a job. Like, what is what is even happening?
I don't know. That's a mystery. It's true, because I remember that every single time we would never cook or something. We would always sit at a restaurant, And I don't know, we were young. I don't know where the money came. And yeah, it probably was from gigs, because there was the possibility to work like in a restaurant, maybe twice a week, or and that would be enough. All you needed is a place to sleep and how to pay for the restaurant, and that's it. And the rest of the time, you will really be like doing magic.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And again, I'm a very bad professional. I remember once I was with one magician friend talking, and we were really enjoying. And they called me for a meeting, like important meeting, in which I could get a very good job. And I said, no, sorry, I'm with this friend. I'm not going. But it's now or you lose it. And then, well, I'm sorry. And I hope you find someone good, bye. Because I was in Spain for a reason, and I never forgot the reason, which was to learn. And then I found here that they also had like history of magic, and they had mentors, they had Tamariz, but they also had Ascanio. Gaby Paredes was also here in Spain. And then you had Gabriel Moreno, Luis Garcia, great, amazing magicians that were older, and they opened the way. And then you would have Juan doing the Escorial gathering every year. So the first time he invited me there, it's like, what would you do every day? I mean, you would meet with these amazing people, and you would talk about magic, and you would learn. I remember every reunion I went, they would talk maybe about, I don't know, 10, 12 different authors of magic, writers. And I would know probably one of them. I would fake to know them all, of course, but I would know probably one. And then it's great because I had the opportunity to learn about all the other 11. So you would spend some time reading and sharing with people and thinking about magic. And at that time is when I began researching for the show in the dark. Because like I told you, I was working in restaurants. People would tell me things like, oh, you're so skillful. This is a very common thing to say, you're so skillful. And it was meant as a compliment, but for me, it was an insult. It was my fault because I would do flourishes and stuff like that. But it meant, oh, you have an explanation for what I'm doing, my skills. And I didn't like that. So I started looking for ways in which I could eliminate this explanation to make the experience more impossible. So at the beginning, I did tricks from a distance, like verbal magic, Juan would call it, or telemagic, from afar, without touching. And there are many tricks in the magic literature about this. And I found a lot of beautiful things. But at a certain point, I thought maybe the best way not to touch something is not to have anything. And then I start thinking about magic, propless magic. And I didn't find any books at the time. I found one later, many years later, that is called No Prop Nightclub Act from Ted Karmilovich, in which he tells you some tricks you can do if you lose your luggage and you have to perform like in a nightclub, and then you have like 15 minutes of solid magic you can do with nothing. And but I found this later. But I found in the literature tricks that maybe you could remove the object and the trick would remain the same, and then I could understand the principle underneath. And I was really into that research of tricks that you could remove the object and still understand that the principle had nothing to do with material things. And I was doing that in Spain. And at a certain point, I made a list of possibilities just to remind me of what could I achieve if I succeed in this path, And I wrote magic in a book, that could do magic, or magic in a podcast, or magic in from telephone, at the time, or maybe in a poster, or maybe in a stadium for 100,000 people, And I wrote in that list magic for the blind. And I remember reading the list and thinking, oh, this is interesting. Are there any shows really devoted to this? And I didn't find any. I found later also a book from Willy Tidona, an Argentinian magician. It's called Proyecto Mara, Mara's project, which is Mara is a little girl that was blind, and he wrote a book of things that you could do to her, But it wasn't, it wasn't what I was looking for, because I had a whole idea of the show being pitch black and me being blindfolded and people also being blindfolded, so they would never see me, never see the room. And the moment I got interest in this project, I decided to put the elements back in the show just to have the best possible experience. But the beginning of it was my research of propless magic. This is how I got into the Magic for the Blind show. Thinking how could make magic more impossible. Maybe it's good not to touch anything. And then thinking, what could I do if I do propless magic? And one possibility was magic for the blind. And it took me maybe 10, 12 years to create the first show.
Wow. So maybe for somebody who doesn't know about what this show is, this is the thing that, this is the show that people have been talking about. It's brought you all over the world, doing this project. Can you talk a little bit about what is the show? What is it? Maybe what's it like?
Yeah, absolutely. The show is, the main idea is the theater is going to be pitch black. I am going to be blindfolded, because even that is pitch black, you can always have some light or emergency exit. So just to make sure I don't see, I wear a blindfold. The people enter the dark room. In the room, you will find people that is blind, visually impaired, or people that can see, but they also wear blindfolds. And we all do 50 minutes of magic in the dark. You never see the room. You never see myself, never see me. And then you leave the room in the dark. And everything happens for everyone in the same place, which is like the theater of imagination, at the beginning, it's like, oh, this is difficult because magic is so visual. But one thing that I learned that it really helped me to create the show was that I didn't need to deceive the other senses. It's not about the senses. The senses are just means to an end. What you have to do is you have to create a puzzle, a mystery, something that really challenge the reason. Then you have to stimulate imagination with a fiction, with fantasy. And then you have to connect emotion. You have to do those three things in order to create an effect, Those three things, they never had the word eye or sight in it. It's just human abilities. And you, in order to tell the narrative, maybe you need to hear, but in order to create the challenge, maybe you need to touch to make sure that the conditions are right. But the senses are just helping you to create an interpretation of what's going on. They are not the last end of magic. They just ways for you to construct your reality in order to understand that something impossible happened. And the moment you understand that, it really opens many possibilities. And in the show, just to be more concrete or more specific about it, if someone is interested in following the same path, I use different approaches. First approach, some of the tricks are problems magic. I just talk and people listen, and at a certain point they realize, I was thinking that. How did you know? Some of the tricks are also verbal magic or telemagic. Every person has items like a box with things, and they follow instructions and magic happen in their hands. That's like a second approach. And a third approach, which at the beginning I thought, oh, this is going to be weak. This is not going to be this. And I was completely wrong again, because when you go to a magic show, not every single trick happens to you. You witness the magician doing a trick to somebody else, right? So you can do the same in the dark. You do a trick to one person, and then everyone else witness this effect by listening. Is the only difference. But they can witness, and they really know, because what you're doing is true. You're doing an actual trick to one person, and they know what they are listening is true, and it's very powerful. So some of the tricks I just perform to one person. I'm more specific. I do the which hand effect. In a regular show, you would open your hand and you would show that the medallion is there or the coin is there. In this show, I have a microphone on the table, and I condition the person to put the hands like in the motorcycle position, I call it, so everyone can imagine what he's doing. And then I say, open the hand with the medallion so we can hear it dropping onto the table, and you can hear it very clearly. And then I say, if you hear this later, it means I was right. Open the other hand. Nothing sounds, and you say, if you hear this silence later on, it means this experience was a complete failure. Once you establish those rules, you can do the exact same routine that you would do in a show. You're doing it to one person, and everyone else is understanding that you're telling in which hand the medallion is, and then you have to give them something to believe, of course. So the experience is interesting and beautiful, but it's the same. It's the same. In fact, when I was preparing the show, I was really obsessed. Like, okay, how can I do a levitation in the dark? How can I do a triumph in the dark? How can I do, I don't know, vanishing in the dark? How can I do something to appear in the dark? How can I do a turn and restore in the dark? And I would try to translate every single trick that magic has into the dark. And once you get into that frame of mind, it's not that difficult. You start finding ways.
Wow. It's very interesting, especially in, relationship to what you said earlier about, you doing magic and people saying like, wow, you're very skillful. Or, sometimes I would do magic and someone would say like, oh, well, like, very quick, or your sleight of hand must be very great. And for me, I agree with you. It feels like, not so much an insult, but it's like the opposite of what I want. The opposite of what I want. What I'd rather them say is, but you never touched the cards. You didn't even come near it.
I don't understand how is this possible. That's what you want to hear. Yes,
exactly. And this show seems like, the immediate excuses, or not excuses, but these places where spectators go, where even if they don't have an answer, they'll say like, it was very fast, or your sleight of hand is very quick. This stuff disappears. That doesn't exist in this show at all. It's just people left with the experiences.
Yes, but to be completely honest, I did the show like for 12 years, and it was like a beautiful ride because I truly traveled all around the globe, and it opened the magic international community for me. I did it. I went to Dubai 4 times. I did it in Australia, in Taiwan, in China, in Toronto, like you said, or all over Europe. And I did it at Magic Live. I did it in many places. And but I pretty soon start feeling that the magic wasn't as strong as it should be. And this is very painful if you love magic, because you're used to doing invisible deck, in which people goes like, I thought of the card, you didn't do anything. And here is like, I don't know what you did, but I have an idea.
Yeah, especially with some like mathematical or things like that.
Yeah,
people start to have an idea.
Because maybe it's beautiful, maybe it's nice, but it's a difficult balance between being complex enough so they don't have any idea, but they have to be easy to understand and easy to follow also. And things like the medallion, they don't have that problem. They work just as good. But I knew that the magic could be better. So I had like a blessing in disguise. It was a very, very tough disguise, because during the pandemic, I stopped traveling, of course, and this was the opportunity for me to review the show, to really look at it honestly, and thought, okay, there are many things I can improve here. The technical aspects also had room for improvement, because I was like MP3 files that I downloaded from the internet, not too good, And then the magic was weak from my point of view, and the experience also. I believe this is like this is a very personal opinion. When people tell you that they love the movie Matrix, I think they're talking more about the thoughts they had when they witnessed the movie than the movie itself. I think the movie is fine, but it's a love story, and I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the movie, but the concept is so great. I felt, again, like a big fraud, because people would say, oh, that was amazing. But I knew they were talking about the concept, not the show itself. It's like, oh, such a good idea. It's not what you want to hear. It's not what you want to hear. It's such a good experience.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to hear people say, wow, what a great idea.
What a great idea. So sorry you couldn't make more, And then the thing is that I also believe that the experience could be more. So I work with a director. I've worked my last 5 shows with him. And he's from Spain, but he lives at the moment he's studying like a PhD in New York about directing and writing. And I called him. He was in New York at the time. I was in Chile during the pandemic, and I said, oh, okay, I wanna review the show. He knew the show. He wasn't part of that show because the show is older. The first time I did it was in 2010. I did it for the first time there, and I did it until 2020. And they said, okay, I want to review this show. And he said, all right, let's do it. And we worked like for 6 months. The first 3 months, we reviewed the script and we changed all the effects. Well, not all of them. We kept the medallion, and everything else went away or got modified, improved. And we really changed the concept. And we really, because the old show was a bit like for my next trick, for my next trick, and which was fine because it was in the dark and that was enough. And I also wanted to be light that way. I wanted to be like, oh, this is a fun, light magic show. The only difference is I've almost forgot we did it in the dark. I wanted to have that feeling, which a little bit of that had, but I wanted to do more. And we created this new version with, I think, better tricks. And I presented it for the first time last year here in Spain, in Banyoles, and with Mario Lopez. And then I did it again in Vitoria, did it again in León, did it in Coimbra with Luis de Matos. And this is the only times that I've had performed the new version is called now Inside the Invisible. This is the new version of the show, and I think it's still green. I mean, because you have to really perform in order for you to get the right pace for every single trick or every single moment or the intention of the speech. Everything needs more time. But I'm very enthusiastic about what is happening with this show. I like it a lot. I think for me it's better, at least. I don't want to do the other show now. I just want to do this show.
Having basically made two shows of magic in the dark, what have you learned about this process? Because I think that, even with your explanation of the medallion, of things happening in people's hands and things like that, it's very difficult for a magician who does card tricks or coin magic or mentalism or things like that, to imagine, and we'll talk about sort of propless in a second, because I do want to go in that direction, but just to imagine this stuff happening in the dark, what have you learned about the building process of how do you put something together when you don't have any of the tools that all of the books are about? You don't have any of these things at your disposal. You have to really make something different. Maybe, like you said, borrow from the verbal telemagic space and borrow from, these mentalism and mathematical avenues. But what have you learned about putting together a trick where people can't see? How do you build that sort of thing now?
Well, I think the most important thing, because magic is going to have methods. That's for sure. There are trillions of methods around, and you have now these amazing gimmicks that you could use in the dark, a lot of them, and you got these amazing books, hundreds of books of semi-automatic card tricks, and then you have things like verbal magic of Juan, in which very specifically tells you how to deliver your speech if someone has to follow instructions. The beginning of the book, in which he says all the steps you have to follow and give every instruction separately. I don't know if it's at the beginning or the end, but it's so useful. And the tools you have at your disposal, and methods, hundreds. The most important thing is what do you want to do? What experience you want to create? To have a vision, I think, is the most important thing. The moment you say, oh, no, I imagine this happening in the dark. I got this idea of I don't know, they're breaking something and then it's restoring their hands again. The moment you have something you really want, and what if that something that breaks is a match, or I don't know, is or it's something from nature, it's a leaf, and what presentation could I make out of this, and the moment you have something you want to communicate, okay, you're going to find the tools. If you don't find them, you're going to talk to the right people. Okay, what do you think? How can I solve this? I have this problem. And again, we'll go back to the beginning. You're never going to do what you say you're going to do. You're always going to get as close as you can. So that's fine. But the most important thing is what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? What do you want to do? And the moment you had that, just the tools are there. Maybe you were just lazy, and it's sometimes, okay, well, do I have to read Mind, Myth, and Magic now? The book is so big, Yes, do it. Do it, because or all the volumes of semi-automatic card tricks from Steve Bean, I don't know, 7, 8, I don't know how many volumes he has now,
More, 11 or something, I don't know.
11, I don't know. And I'm in a couple of them. I'm like, I believe 5 or number 5 and number 6. I don't know. It's a great guy. I met him at Escorial. And but if you are reading that, you're going to think, oh, I never thought of this. This is good. This could work in the dark, because magic is huge. You have tons of things, but you could get lost because of the many things you have. But the moment okay, I got an idea, I want this to happen, and then use research magic in order to achieve. You have to start from the dream effect. I think this is my best approach. But a creative process is always different. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you see a movie and then you say, oh, this is good. This, I like this speech. Maybe I can do a trick with this. Sometimes you bought a trick for something else and you see the possibilities of the prop and you say, okay, this is good. And the prop gives you an idea. So really it varies, But
I love the idea of starting with a dream of what you want and then putting it together. It's never happened for me like that in any way. All of the other things you're talking about is exactly right. I see an effect and I want to make it different, or I see a prop and I love and I want to use it and I figure out how to use it, or never have I ever come up with a trick in that way. And I'd love to come up with a trick in that way, but
imagine if you had real powers that you could do anything. What would you do? If you had the perfect method for everything, what would you do? You have no limits there, and then you're going to get close. And maybe in the spectator's mind, you're going to do exactly what you dream of. You didn't do it, but in the spectator's mind, it's going to happen, and then, but all the other methods are good. I mean, to start with what doesn't sit right inside you is great. When you see something and say, I like this, there's something here that is appealing, to me, that is calling me, but I wish I could do it with a borrow object, or I wish I could do it, and that I wish I could is a great beginning. And then you can grow from there. Of course, vanish is, as long as you have a hunger, is you're gonna get somewhere. You have to, because you're gonna persist. You're gonna continue working until you're closer and closer. You're never gonna be satisfied, And like I said, I remember the last shows I did in the dark when people would tell me something like, "Oh, they were so special." Because it was special for the blind people. Many of the blind people in the community, I never thought about this, but they would tell me like, I never thought I was going to go to a magic show, and very powerful. Or when I did it in Kentucky, I remember a couple came, she was blind, he wasn't, and they both came after the show and told me like, this is the first time we go to the same show. We've been to shows for the blind, and we've been to regular shows in which he explained me what is happening. But this is the first time it was the same for both of us. And those things are like, I remember also in Spain, I did it for the sister of the king of Spain at the time, which is La Infanta Margarita. And she was blind from a very young age. And she came to me after the show and told me, this is the first time I understand what a vanishing is. That something disappearing, how does it feel? Because I could never imagine that. And in the old show and the new one as well, something vanishes in your hands. And I never expected those things, So it's and that started with the dream effect. I want something to vanish in their hands. So it's good. It's good to allow yourself to dream. Sometimes you fail. That doesn't matter, or it's not good enough. Then if you have hunger, like I said, you're going to continue until you arrive to something.
I want to talk a little bit about propless magic. I know you released a project on this topic, and I think that just like, magic that you can't see, magic without props seems like a very hard thing to picture. And, I know maybe one or two, tricks that I can do without props. And I think about it all the time when I'm out. When I'm out with people, maybe I don't have cards with me or something, and I want to do a trick, and what can I do? Think of a hand, name a number, and and I show it with my fingers, what can I do? So I think about it a lot, and I've seen a couple of ideas and projects about this thing, but how do you start creating magic with nothing? So much of our stuff is based on the props and the tools, and so how do you even think of propless magic?
Okay, this is good. This is a good subject. I truly believe that all magic is propless, in a way that when something appears, it didn't appear. It happens in a place that is not physical. It happens in the minds of the spectator. It doesn't happen in reality. Nothing transformed, nothing disappeared, nothing changed sizes, nothing went through something solid. None of those things happen because they cannot happen. But you think this is an abstract thing. If you're in a theater and an elephant appears, something real strong and physical, if a person arrives to the stage after the magician showed the box empty, he would just only see a magician open a box with an elephant inside. And everyone would applaud that moment. I said, why they are applauding a box with an elephant? Because in their minds, the box was empty and no one came near and it only happened a few seconds, but it's not something physical. The magic doesn't happen in the physical world. It happens in their minds or in their hearts or in their souls, if you want, but it doesn't happen in the physical world. So the moment you understand that, you start realizing that there are a lot of principles in magic, and I mean a lot of principles that could apply to propless magic. I've written, I got like 50 principles right now that could apply. And the interesting thing is that one principle could help you create
dozens, hundreds of effects. Yeah.
Hundreds of effects, millions of effects, one principle. And I have, it's not a taxative list, is what I have right now, like 50,
Can you give me an example of a principle that you could create propless magic with?
Sure. Memory, for instance. Memory, you could use it as an exhibition, and that would be propless. If you say, stand up and name me an object, and then you name all the object list, and you sit down, everyone, and it would feel like an effect as an exhibition. And you could also use it secretly.
You could use what?
Secretly, like not as an exhibition, just like a hidden method with another presentation. So you can use it both ways, and memory is great. And memory is the closest thing we have to a real superpower, because it's amazing the things you can do with memory. I have devoted the last, 7 years of my life to learn memory techniques and stuff like that, because I think it's great. And definitely it's a principle of propless magic. You got mathematical principles, of course. You got a lot of mathematical principles that you could use, but also you have principles like, like the Rashomon principle, which is the principle that they use in the Al-Quran, in which it's not Al-Quran strict, but it's known as Al-Quran, in which you say, if you're thinking of this card, sit down. And everyone assumes that the card they name that is not theirs is the others, That's a principle. That's not material. You can do things with that. Okay, I'm going to give you one example, concrete, and this is only for magicians, right? Like we can put methods.
Only magicians.
Yeah, all right. There's one beautiful trick in the Ted Karmilovich trick, probably the best trick in the book, is in which you use one principle, which is called pooling, in which you ask to the people, okay, who prefers to drink tea than coffee? Some people raise their hands, And you go, oh, those people normally are more calm and intellectual. Thank you for being in this show. I think you're going to like this show. Okay, who was born during the summertime? I mean, months of July and August. Some people raise their hands. You look at those people and you select three people from there. But you continue. Probably you are more fun and you're outgoing and you're very expressive people. I hope you use all that energy to improve this show. And who likes to take showers in the night instead of the morning? Oh, very few people. And you do this in the middle of your beginning. Later on the show, maybe 20 minutes later, you say, okay, I'm getting something here. Would you please stand up? And you name the three people that raise their hands during the summer. Yeah. Think of your zodiac sign. Yes, I'm getting, close your eyes, send them to me. I'm getting the signs of, and you name the three signs that are during the month of July and August. But they have their eyes closed. You point at three of them. You say, if you're thinking of this, this, and this, please sit down now. They all sit down, and you just told them the zodiac sign to three random people. They are not stooges with nothing. It's a very strong, powerful effect of magic with nothing. Principles, always understand principles. Pooling and Rashomon principles, which is the principle in which everyone assumes that what they didn't choose is what the other person chose. You combine two principles. This pooling, in which you get information from a different reason, and you infer information from that information, you infer something that you use, And it's great.
Wow.
It's great. It's beautiful.
It's amazing because it feels like we're talking about earlier about, someone saying, the sleight of hand was good or that was very fast. It feels like there's no technique. It feels like you say, how could you do that? When you do there's a trick I do that's similar to being propless. It's not really, but it's very very similar to what you just described. You're pointing at people and you know what they're thinking. And the magicians come to me after and they say, pre-show, right? You did it by pre-show. No, but because it's impossible to believe that this is possible because it doesn't have sleight of hand. It doesn't have objects. It doesn't have anything with it.
They have no safe place to go. But I think, again, once you got the methods, you're going to find methods, because methods are I think out of the top of my head, two propless tricks that magicians use in their everyday repertoire a lot. One is the one in which they do the hand cross.
Yeah, the crossing hands, yeah.
Everyone is tangled, and then you say, no, and it's like this, and you know the trick, and I hope everyone listening understands what the trick is. It's the one in which you make everyone cross their hands, put the thumbs face down, and grab their hands again, cross, and then you put them straight back, and they can't. And this is a propless trick in which the principle, which is the principles. This is my job when I research that. I say the principles is that you secretly change the initial position. This is the principle, and you use your body for this position, and you So what else could you do? Which initial position could you have that you could change secretly that could have unexpected results? And then the moment you understand the principles, you can create more stuff. It's not that you are inspired by the music, it's like a little ant work, you a little bit of, you understand this, okay, what else could I use for my body, or maybe something else, not my body, and then you start creating from there. It's not that hard. And the principles, like I said, there are a lot of principles. I don't know. And the other one that magicians do, I said too, is the PK touch. Well, there are PK touch with props, but there is a propless PK touch in which you just touch the person secretly, and then you make distance and you make them assume that the time is different, that you're touching them right now.
And what's that principle? Timing?
For me, that principle, would be first to secretly touch somebody. That's just like a straightforward principle. But then I think the most important part of that effect is to make them interpret that the moment something happens is different, is to change the time frame, I never thought about the principle underneath this. I would probably write like the principle PK touch, because there are many things you can do with the PK touch. Many things, different effects. One, I think it's Luc Germain. I don't know. I don't want to.
Exactly, Luc Germain. I know exactly what you're talking about. Touching on
Right?
Hoy, where
completely different effect.
Yeah.
Using also, I think, the Rashomon principle, and when you combine principle, it's always strongest magic. And sometimes you got effects in which the principle is good, but it needs to cover. You need some dust. If it's too straightforward, people can see through it. For instance, I'm thinking about one beautiful effect that I love, which is the elephants in Denmark. Of course, and if you don't know, you force elephants in Denmark. And the problem, the moment is great. People say, oh, how did he know? But then 1 second later, you think, what if I thought of, I couldn't think of any other country or any other animal, And this doesn't mean that the principle is bad. It means only that you have to cover your tracks, And in fact, there is one I can do maybe here for you. This is not a very strong magic, but it's something nice that I perform when I have to go to radio, for instance. And once you understand this principle, I have created like 30 or more, I think I have in my phone, versions of this trick, which is based on the elephants in Denmark, but thinking about how to cover my tracks. And we're going to talk maybe a little bit more about this principle, but I want you to imagine, Jonah, that you have arrived to paradise, okay? This is great. If you have arrived, just by imagining you have arrived, it doesn't have to be a traditional paradise, it could be any paradise that you like, okay? A place of happiness. But before you enter, there is a beam of light that is going to tell you that you have to select one virtue in order to enter paradise, okay? I'm going to tell you a few virtues, and you have to think of one and only one, and everyone listening in this podcast also can think and imagine that before entering paradise, there is a being of light that is going to say some virtues, and you have to select one and only one, okay? Could be strength, tolerance, bravery, wisdom, youth, sensitivity, tenacity, wit, balance, sincerity. Do you have one?
Yes.
Don't say it to me, but of course, everyone listening also should have one. So please imagine that this being of light is going to give you the first letter of your word, like a key to enter paradise. Only the first letter is going to be like a key, and it's going to give you that letter. You take the letter in your hands, and you enter paradise with that letter in your hands, the first letter of your word. Yes? When you arrive, you enter, the first thing you see is a beautiful tree. You've never seen a tree like this because in every branch has a different fruit. Okay? And I'm going to tell you what fruits are in this tree, because since you're in paradise, everything makes sense. And the letter that you have is going to be in the name of one of the fruits. Okay? It's going to be maybe in the middle of the name of the fruit or at the beginning or the end, but you have to find the letter that you have in the name of one of the fruits. Okay? In the trees, you have apple, peach, strawberry, lime, orange, plum, grape, pear, lemon, pineapple. Did you find one fruit?
Yeah.
Yes, imagine you take that fruit from the tree. Imagine you put it near your head and you smell it. So your lungs and this virtual space between you and me and everyone else listening is filled with the smell of strawberries.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And I, like I said, I love this trick. The principle, I call this principle the limited universe with the feeling of unlimited.
Amazing.
So again, it's a forcing technique, which is everyone maybe with a magician's mind. I don't want to spoil it if you are enjoying the trick, but it's knowing there is a branch, in which the first letter of every single word I name first is only present in strawberry and is not present in any of the other words. It's as simple as that. But the feeling is not, and unlike the trick of the elephants in Denmark, you think, what were the other fruits? What was the other words? And you lost. Now I like Hansel and Gretel, they lost their.
You cover your tracks.
They cannot go back home. They don't know, because I named 20 things and they can only retain a number out of 7. So this is thing, but it's still not perfect, because people would maybe feel that there is a structure that they don't understand. Even that they don't understand, they feel the structure. But what if you do this instead of for everyone, like I did now, in a theater, and you stand up 3 people and you name 3 fruits, and they sit down. And then they're not going to think, because how did he know every single fruit,
Wow.
I was thinking the same that the second guy, but there's a coincidence.
Wow. This is really
again,
awesome.
Cover your tracks. The principle is good. Maybe we're too lazy to make the most out of it. But the principle is good. So like I said, and you see, we talk about like 3 or 4 principles, but every single principle has more possibilities. What about psychological forces? This is something that is not material, and you can do many things. And this is a very strong principle, because people don't expect to be forced psychologically. They feel their freedom. And then you can have a prediction. You have to do it properly, of course. In fact, the show that I want to do next year is called Nothing in This Hand, and it's the show of propless magic. I want to arrive at the stage and do 50 minutes of magic with nothing.
Wow. That's fantastic.
And the problem I have now, and I have to work with this Miguel, with my director, and he's just finished his exams now, so he needs to take some vacation, but we're going to start working soon, and is to eliminate tricks. I have too many tricks for the show.
Wow.
And you have to really select and see which are the best and how to create a nice narrative with all the effects that I have. But I don't think it's going to be that tough, because I'm not very pretentious about it. I want to just have a nice, again, like the first show in the dark that I did, a nice propless show in which you arrive to the theater with nothing. You travel very light. You don't have to prepare anything. Everything is reset. No angles, no visibility problems. It's just, it's great. And you do it.
That's fantastic. Do you do magic with props anymore, or no? That's for
No, absolutely. I love everything. I love every single gadget, and I love technology. And I have the Oculus, and I think all the possibilities of magic and virtual reality and augmented reality. I was looking live at the release of the new Apple Vision Pro headset, with augmented reality. I really like props. I love props because I love all the boundaries of limits of magic. And you have one limit in one side, but the other limit is in the exact opposite side. When I did the show with technology, which it was called the Orange Tree because it's magic and technology, and it was like a tribute to Robert Houdin. And I had a robot on stage, and I put the Oculus to one spectator, and I have, mapping, and I love props. I love magic. Of course, I love gadgets, and every year they making better props, all those, electronics and
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
great.
The last thing I'd love to chat about, with respect to all of this has to do with technology, because, I told you this story while we were in Spain, but Ben and I were hired to consult on this virtual reality magic project. And it was very difficult. It was very difficult because we ended up with some mathematical principles and things like that. And we really wanted them to do stuff with augmented reality so they could have something in their hand or something like that. And they really wanted virtual reality. And we gave them some ideas, and it didn't end up working, or they didn't end up with a full show that they wanted to do in virtual reality. And I think that it's very interesting as magic develops. One thing that's very clear looking back is that different technologies allow for different development of magic. When magic was put on TV, magic going on the radio, it's so many different things. As technology develops, magic develops as well into different formats and different places. And now it's very clear that there are only a few different formats that are newly approaching. There's like videos on your screen, there's VR, there's AR, there's, but there's a couple of different areas that are newly approaching. So, what do you think about magic in those spaces? What do you think about magic on video, on TikTok, on VR, on AR? How do you feel about that? Do you think that magicians are going to explode into these areas? Do you think some people are like worried that it's like the end of magic? How do you feel about the way that technology is affecting magic right now?
I think technology is neutral in a way that I don't know. You can give light to a city, or you can make the atomic bomb, and is what you do with it what it counts, And I think magic is always going to be there. I mean, every time a new technology appears, there's a fear that it's the end of magic. It's like when the first book came, it's like, oh, now everyone is going to be able to read the secret, so there's no point in doing the tricks anymore. And then when the TV came, oh no, this is a problem, because when they could record it, they could stop and review it and really examine this, the end of magic. And every single time, YouTube, all the people explaining. But secret is very complex. I mean, I've been studying it since I was 6. I'm 54, and I have so many things that I don't understand. I have so many things to learn. And it is no one that sees like a couple of videos is really going to know magic. If you know what I mean. So it's no problem. And we always are deceived with the things we know. I mean, when something floats, normally it's a threat. And people is expecting a threat, but they're still deceived by it. Because we can be deceived with things. And technology is maybe the biggest problem of technology is that sometimes it feels like coal, like everything is going to be an app. It's like maybe in the old days it would be, it's a demon. Like an explanation for everything you don't understand. Now it's like, it's technology that because of technology. So the good thing is that magician knows this. So you have to play with this in your mind. You have to assume that and maybe play with that and maybe incorporate it or not, or really do something that cannot be explained by technology, combine methods. Again, you have to do the job. The wonderful technology is not going to be the magic. It's not going to do magic alone. You have to do the job. You have to put yourself in the spectator's mind, think of the possible explanation, and eliminate them all. including the right one, and then give something to believe in, create a fiction, a fantasy. If that is very interesting and appealing, they are not even going to think about the trick. It's going to also protect the secret. It's also, if it's something emotional, and if they are believing something else, they don't have to look for an explanation. So I don't know. And again, I think the best way to approach magic and technology, and I think we talk about that, is the dream effect also. Start with the dream effect. It's like, okay, I got this technology, but what if it's neutral. What do I want to do with this? What? And then the moment you start thinking that, okay, let's find the methods, And again, methods, you have plenty. And with technology, you have some that they are not even yet aware. No, people blink and the technology can record that. They look at certain places and technology can record that. And you can use technology in your favor and then dress it as something else, and you can use things that are not technology, but inside the technological world, and combine principles. Again, not do one thing and use it in one way. Combine principles. Cover your tracks. Maybe you found something, but this is going to be very obvious. Okay, make it less obvious. Cover your tracks.
Wow, it's very inspiring to hear you talk about different areas of magic like this, and it feels like talking about magic in the dark and propless magic, and even with technology, it feels like there's so much. Sometimes in magic you feel like. Yes, I'm not very good at this or very good at that, but I feel like I understand that. And then all of a sudden you change the playing field to no props. And it's like there's so much, so much you can do. It feels, at the beginning of this conversation, I'm almost like, how do we even make people understand what you mean by propless magic? Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can think of so many principles and so many things that can be used without props. It's really incredible. So
it's great. I'm sure that when I'm about to die and I'm at the hospital, I'm going to be like, magic for terminal illness people in the hospital. I'm going to be like that. Like, what could you do with this thing dripping here? Maybe, you can make the liquid go up again. I'm going to be thinking like that, I'm sure. And it's a bless. It's a bless to have this passion, and it's a bless to have a community to share it with. I think it's a wonderful, gift of life.
Amazing. Well, thank you for all of the perspective and sharing and all of the advice here. This has been really fantastic. I have a couple of wrap-up questions that we ask to everybody on the podcast. The first is the endless chain. So in order to keep the podcast going on forever, each magician is asked to recommend another magician that would be really great for the podcast. There's two catches. The first catch is that I must not have had interviewed them already. So maybe you may have to name a couple of names because I know the list is getting very long. The second catch is that you have to be able to put us in contact. It can't just be somebody that we both don't know. It has to be somebody that you actually do know, that you can connect the two of us. So who would be a good fit for this kind of conversation?
Okay, of course, I would recommend Mario Lopez. Of course, you had it.
I have.
Okay, there's one. I think there is one problem, and maybe it's limited your options, which is language. Some people don't speak English very well, but maybe you can try to talk with someone that is really interesting. I like some people from Argentina. I like a lot. Some people do speak English very well. I know you had Roberto Mancilla, for instance.
No.
Oh no, Roberto, you have to. He's writing, I think, in Genie magazine, and he's really well known to Gaby Parera's view, and he's so smart. He studied communication.
Great. Can you say his name again?
Roberto Mancilla.
Amazing. That's a great recommendation. And
Roberto Mancilla. From Argentina, I would recommend Hernán Macaño for sure. His English is not very good, but he's going to make himself understand. And his power of nature. He's so creative. You're going to love Hernán. He's funny and inventive. And for me, it's one of the best stand-up magicians that I've ever seen in my life. It's just so good, Hernán Macaño. In Chile, you have one Spanish magician that is so deep and it's really has a school of magic. And it's Ricardo Rodriguez. He's great, and he's doing a kind of a podcast. It's just some sounds that some recording that he produces. It's called El Dedo en la Llaga, which is the finger in the wound. It's like he's really like, he has. He's the person I consult when I need help with magic and I need something to do. But his English is not very good, but maybe there's a way around it,
We'll see what we can do. These are fabulous. These are really great recommendations. The next question is about the world of modern magic. So a lot has changed in the world of magic in the last 5, 10, 20, 30 more years. What's one thing you like about the world of magic right now? And what's one thing you don't like?
Okay, what I like a lot is the community is bigger, and we're having this conversation. This is amazing. We didn't have this before, and we can learn from each other. But now, and every time you meet a magician, it's your friend instantly. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, you're a magician, my best friend, and it doesn't matter the socio-economical origin or the age, or doesn't matter. And now the community is everyone. This is great. This I love about modern magic, and I think I could name like 10 things that I love. I'm not of those persons. In the old days, I think this is a great time for magic, because magic is also expanding the frontiers of expression. Is different styles now, and is doing like, I don't know what arts did in the past. Escaping from the realism into more different approaches. And I think magic is doing that. So it's a great time to be in. But maybe something that I don't like, that it was good for the old days, if I had to name one thing, would be the love for the secret. In the old days, now it feels like you're almost, since you have a huge community, the bad aspect is you almost want to tell the secret right away. And I do that as well. I don't say it from a pedestal. In the old days, like the secret was sacred, and you would treasure it, and you would hide it, and you would create a mystery throughout the years, and I think that love for the secret has been lost in a way, and maybe we should recover it somehow. That would be maybe my good and bad.
I love that. Thank you so much for both of those. It's very they're very opposite parts of the same thing. It's very, very interesting. And the last is where people can find you. Where can they find your material? Where can they follow you? Where can they see one of the shows when it comes next?
Okay, well, like I said, I'm a very bad professional, but I have an Instagram, which I use not so much, but every time someone like you writes me in Instagram, I answer, or I try to, So I have an Instagram, and I think it's juan.e.varela, Juan.e.varela, which is my last name. And I have Facebook as well. It's both very messy and personal. I don't have a person publishing content, it's just me. And I have a web page in which there is my email, and the web page maybe is like when I was 30, I don't know, and it's still the same one, but there is information there, and you have my phone. And you can WhatsApp me with the phone that is there, and you have my email. So I'm very easy to find. And of course, this is a small, beautiful magic community. So if you contact any person, you or anyone else, just give them my number. And let's talk.
Amazing. Yes. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for all the incredible information and inspiration. And really, this was something special. So I appreciate it.
Thanks to you, Jonah. It's been a joy talking to you every single moment. I enjoy. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. I hope you liked the episode, and I hope, of course, that you learned something. Maybe you too will try some magic without stuff. And that sounds crazy, but magic with no things, no props, just words, just ideas, just thoughts. I don't know. This was amazing. I learned so much. I left this episode very inspired, and I hope that you did too. If this episode was interesting, exciting, fulfilling, informative, or anything like that for you, then I encourage you to share it and tell a friend. I know I ask this every episode, and I know you don't every episode, but this is one that you should, because you will sound very smart to your friends. I'll also tell you that you should go and sign up at discourseinmagic.com for the newsletter, because not only do wonderful, fun, interesting, and epic information-filled newsletters come out where you can learn magic and tips and business ideas in your inbox, but also I can secretly tell you that there is a project coming out very soon, which you're going to want to get your physical hands on. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to say that you're going to want to get your physical hands on, and the first people to do that are going to be the people on the newsletter. So I encourage you to go to discourseinmagic.com and sign up so that you can get first dibs on a project that has been a long time coming. So thanks for being here. I hope you learned something. I hope you like it. I hope you tell a friend. I hope you sign up, and I hope to see you next Thursday. Ciao.